So, hi everybody. Hello, namaskar, adab, ayubowan, sat sri akal, kuzu zangpola, and vanakkam to everyone. Welcome to South Asia Peace Action Network webinar exploring South Asian identity and diversity. This is the 24th in our series Imagine Neighbors in Peace. And we welcome you all to this very important session we have today. It is my pleasure to be your host for this event today. Let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Vishal Sharma, a researcher hailing from Himachal Pradesh, India, currently based in England. Additionally, I'm one of the founding members of the South Asia Peace Action Network, or SAPAN as we fondly call it. We at SAPAN are dedicated to continuing the important work and legacy of numerous peace activists and luminaries from across the region, many of whom are sadly no longer with us. Today, we'll be sharing a slide that pays a tribute to some of these remarkable individuals. But before we proceed, I kindly request everyone to join me in a moment of silence to honor their memory. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and support. I hope we can continue their legacy in strengthening the idea of South Asia. I would also like to share that just a few minutes ago, the fifth Asma Jahangir conference concluded in Lahore. This conference is held in the memory of one of the pioneers of South Asian human rights activism, Advocate Asma Jahangir, who passed away in 2018. She famously quoted, democracy is not just about elections, it's about the protection of human rights. And keeping this message in mind, we at SAPAN believe that we are part of a global network of South Asians living within and outside South Asia. We strongly advocate for a visa-free South Asia or a region with soft borders. If you support the cause, please sign our Milne Do petition on change.org. The link will be shared in the chat section. Additionally, there is also the SAPAN 3-point founding charter. More than 82 organizations and hundreds of individuals in the region and the diaspora have endorsed it. We invite you all to endorse it if you support the cause. And the SAPAN founding charter calls upon the governments and peoples of South Asia to institute soft borders to allow freedom of trade and travel to each other's countries, ensure human rights and dignity for all citizens, including religious and ethnic minorities, and cooperate in all areas, particularly related to public health, culture and legal reform, education, environment, climate change, etc. The founding charter is also available online in several languages at southasiapeace.com. So if you believe in this idea of South Asia, do endorse our charter. Now, under the SAPAN webinar series titled Imagine Neighbors in Peace, our focus today revolves around the theme of exploring South Asian identity and diversity. Our objective is to delve into the intricate fabric of South Asian identity, particularly from the macro and micro lens of our youth. By engaging young voices as speakers and participants, we aim to uncover the myriad dimensions that contribute to South Asian identity, be it cultural, linguistic, social, economic, or historical influences. Through meaningful conversations about the commonalities and differences within South Asian communities, our goal is not to celebrate diversity, but also to foster unity and understanding among us. So before we start, just a few house rules for everyone. Please mute your microphones. We request everyone who has joined us today to introduce yourself in the chat. Use the chat for questions or comments. Please stay on topic and be respectful. Be patient with technical difficulties. And lastly, we invite your suggestions and feedback. for which we will be sharing a feedback form at the end of the session. So beginning today's session, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our discussion moderator, Faisal Lalani, hailing from India but based in the US. Faisal recently joined SAPAN and generously volunteers for numerous crucial responsibilities, including moderating today's discussion. Faisal is a global community organizer with a diverse background in research, activism, writing, technology, and policy. He has lent his expertise to various countries around the world, such as Nepal, South Africa, India, the US, the UK, and Sri Lanka, addressing a wide array of topics, including tech and democracy, public health, education reform, political activism, and broader social change initiatives. So, without further delay, I will now pass the baton to Faisal to introduce our panelist and moderate today's webinar. Over to you, Faisal.
Thanks, Vishal. I am very, very excited about this event. For some quick context, a few weeks ago, we were all chatting about New Year's in Sri Lanka, I think it was, and we all started going back and forth about New Year's in other parts of the region all around the same time. And then the conversation turned to more of the similarities between our countries, other celebrations, holidays, even social movements. And then someone, I think it was me, made a very scandalous comment that incited chaos immediately, that Indian Hyderabadi biryani was the best biryani in the region. Now, we here all know that's true, of course, but everybody started weighing in on their views, and it turned into this beautiful avalanche of perspectives that really gave us a lot to laugh about, much to learn from, and most significantly, a way to relate so powerfully to one another. One thing led to another, and we came up with the main topic for this event to celebrate that kind of diversity based on this fundamental unity, whether it's cuisine or social change or identity. And now we have a cohort of brilliant, dynamic young speakers. And yes, I am young. I still checked. To dive more into the eternal debate about which biryani is best, and probably more importantly, how their work and lived experience has helped shape how they perceive their identities, not just as Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankans, or Nepalis, but as South Asians as a whole. And so today's event will feature these young speakers from diverse backgrounds and disciplines, providing fresh perspectives and insights into the complexities of South Asian identity and diversity. And I'd like each of the speakers to introduce themselves very briefly before we get into the conversation. So Mansi, would you like to start?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Mansi, and I am from Jaipur, Rajasthan. A little context about me. My grandfather was born and brought up in Pakistan and came to India during the partition. So I grew up listening to his stories of the partition and his experience back in modern-day Pakistan, which sort of inspired me to pursue peace and conflict as a career. And I came to the UK to pursue a master's degree in peace and conflict studies. I am currently based in Manchester and work as the monitoring and evaluation officer for Forum for Discussion on Israel and Palestine. I also work with some wonderful, talented kids in India and run a world affairs module with them. You can see them on the screen. It's Indian Women Impact, and I'm so happy that they joined. So really looking forward to the discussion today. And yeah, thank you once again for having me.
Thanks, Mansi. Amina, do you want to go next?
You said my name, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just waiting for the camera to turn on. Hi, everyone. My name is Amna. I'm from Lahore, and I'm representing Aurat March Lahore right now. And my family is a mixed bag. They're like from India. Half of my family is from India. They're still in India, and half of my family is in Pakistan, and rest of them are like shifted abroad and everything. And I think diversity it's just like, it's really amazing when you hear the stories that your grandparents have to tell, because they were born in India and they were moving from India to Pakistan, and some were moving from Pakistan to India. And if you hear their stories, they're like, there's a lot of love, and they're like very minor differences, which are like, like sort of cute, and at the same time they're like very stubborn about it, that this is, what my way of doing things are right. Like honestly, very simple. Like you said about biryani wali cheese, it's about the same way with roti and everything. They're like, our way of cooking is better and this like stuff like this. So I'm really glad that I got a chance to be part of this panel. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And we'll definitely talk a lot more about that. Sachin, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Faisal, and it was great listening to. Am I audible? Am I audible, Faisal?
Yes, you are. Sorry.
Yeah. So hello everyone. My name is Sachin, and it's great to be here in this forum. I'm from Nepal. My family have been from Nepal, and I think Nepal is the only country that shares an open border in the whole of South Asia. That's what I believe, right? So we have open borders with India. What I do is I am an educator. I'm into politics as well. I'm the president of Youth Congress Nepal, and when you talk about South Asia, I don't think you can skip cricket. So I do a bit of cricket commentary as well. So that's what I do, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of the panelists and talking about biryani. It's getting a little popular here. I've yet not have an opportunity to try the famous biryani from Pakistan. Is it from Karachi? Yeah, because there is a big biryani battle between the Indian and
Biryani, Sindhi biryani.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sindhi biryani.
that's
So
debatable.
yeah,
Which
that's
one is better?
debatable, and to add a little fuel to the fire, Wasim Akram, your former captain, the Pakistani former captain, just mentioned that Hyderabadi biryani is very, very dry. So yeah, I give another opportunity for India and Pakistan to battle in.
Well, this webinar is over. No, we'll definitely dive more into that, especially the cricket angle. Thank you for sharing, Sachin. Lucky, would you like to go next?
Thank you very much. This is Lucky Akhtar. I'm the Central Committee member of Communist Party of Bangladesh. And also I work with the Peasants Organization. I'm the Central Executive member of Bangladesh Krishak Samiti, the largest peasants organization in Bangladesh, left-leaning, of course. And previously, I was a student leader. I was the former General Secretary and President of Bangladesh Students Union, the largest left-leaning student organization in our country. So I'm very much delighted to speak about the diverse community and diversity, what will be discussed today. So I'm really, really very much delighted to speak. So I carry on. But just first thing to talk that I think that Dhaka biryani can beat every reasons, I think. Okay, so let us have it. So we will chat and we will discuss, I think various things will be discussed today. Not only the little ones, but also we have to discuss about the common things which actually united us, and also the some of the differences which has made the diversity of this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hearing all of your backgrounds, I just want to spend an hour with each of you, really getting to know everything about your lives. And that's a good segue to this next speaker too, who I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with for the past few months. Utpala, do you want to say a little bit about your work and who you are?
Yeah, sure. Faisal, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hi guys, I'm Utpal Vijayasuriya, all the way from Sri Lanka. So, I'm juggling being a research assistant and studying law and international relations. So, oh, and I'm also a part of this cool thing called UNU with my senior Udita Deva Priya, where we dive into history, arts, and culture. So, growing up, I bounced between Colombo, which is the capital of our country, and Kurunegala, which is a countryside. So started in Kurunegala, then moved to Colombo for high school when I was 10. And living in both places for a good chunk of time really helps me to get the vibe of both cultures. So also speaking of biryani, I guess I could agree with my friend from US. It's Hyderabad.
Thank you. I definitely did not pay Utpala to say that.
Not at all.
Thanks for the support, buddy. No, so again, fascinating lineup here. We also have some great people in the audience, a couple of which I would encourage to weigh in. Vidya and Adnan, please introduce yourself very briefly in the chat too. And yeah, I really look forward to hearing everyone's perspective in the audience. So please leave comments if you can, and I'll try to get to it and incorporate that into my own questions. So I really want to start this conversation at kind of a personal level. All of you do such incredible work, but all of you in your backgrounds kind of brought up this theme that I noticed in how you developed this concept of identity, whether it relates to your current country or how you relate to the rest of the region. A lot of it is through your parents or your grandparents and what they instilled in you. A lot of it could be through the proxies of cricket or Bollywood or whatever. And so I'd like each of you to go a little bit into how has your personal perspective on a South Asian identity developed as a result of your lived experience, your families, your hobbies, and just growing up wherever you grew up. Mansi, would you like to start?
Sure. So as I mentioned that my grandfather was born and brought up in Pakistan, my mother also hails from Kolkata, so she's a Bengali. And both my grandparents somehow suffered with the war, and so were very, very affected by the geopolitics. So when I was young, I grew up in an environment which was completely anti-Pakistan, and we were told that Pakistanis are the enemy, and it sort of dehumanized the other side of the border completely for me. And I'm being very, very honest here. But when I came to the UK to pursue my master's degree, I was the only brown person in my class. And most of you might know that in Western institutions, they do not talk about colonialism the way we have experienced it or we have studied about it. So nobody could relate to my stories or the history that I had learned about colonialism or the experience of it. And that was a very, very isolating and a frustrating experience. Besides that, when you're living away from your home, you crave things like butter chicken or aloo bhaja or, jhol bhat, things that I grew up, eating and enjoying. So in that space, I think I related and resonated more with the brown-skinned people, and I found my home in Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and other people from South Asia, which sort of heightened my experience as a South Asian and started developing this identity that I resonate more with. And it just became very, very known and very, very highlighted. But all of this, goes out the window when we talk about cricket. And whenever there is a match between India and Pakistan, I'm sorry, I'm Team India, and Pakistan has to lose. But now I have lots of friends from Pakistan, and I found out about the culture and their traditions and their celebrations and festivals, which sort of humanized it for me and gave me a completely different picture of Pakistan, of course, for other countries as well in South Asia, but especially Pakistan. So my grandfather would never even imagine this, but my best friend now is a Pakistani, and we celebrate Diwali and Eid together. We watch cricket matches together, and that's how it is. It is a newfound exploration of this identity, which is away from, oh, I'm just an Indian, but more as, no, we're all South Asians and we have similar experiences and similar I think cravings for food. But as per my vote, it's Hyderabadi biryani as well. So
I love this. I would just like to call on anybody who thinks Hyderabadi biryani is best and only focus on them now. But because you mentioned cricket at the end there, Mansi, I think Sachin, I saw you with a big smile on your face. Would you like to answer the question next about how you conceptualize your identity growing up?
Yeah, so my name is Sachin for a reason, right? So my aunt was a big fan of Tendulkar. Tendulkar made his debut in 1989, and I was named Sachin in 1992. So that's the kind of influence that Tendulkar had on me and cricket had in my family. So my family is a cricket mad family. Well, growing up, I mean, see, Nepal is a very diverse country. We have 125 ethnicities in such a small area. not a small area. We're 47th largest country in terms of land mass, but then we're a very, very diverse country. And growing up in a very rural part of the country, I was always confused of the identity because I see people with Mongoloid race around. And I see people, of Aryan race, and we had tremendous diversity in whole idea, the whole identity of what is being a Nepali. That's how we grew up, and we Nepalese while growing up, we again, just like Mansi said, not the right thing to do, but again, with me, because we were a small country and plenty of historical evidences suggested that, we were not treated well. I mean, that was the kind of message sent in. So we were taught to be anti-India in that manner. I mean, the society kind of spread the same thing. Obviously, not the same thing in the southern part of the country. But me being an Indian cricket team fan, it was very difficult for me because I supported India again, right? In cricket, and my cousins, the reasons, but the reason was, because they, so the only common we have is an aspired future. And we had so many political changes that came in. We went to being a republic from a monarchy. And then we're now trying to build, our nationhood from a different angle. We got a new constitution as well. So yeah, we've had me while growing up, I had issues with finding out the identity. There was caste that was there in the society, but again, the Nepaliness, I was at times confused with what exactly being a Nepali meant, because our nationhood is not as simple as how the West defines, right? And I'm sure that is the case with other countries in the South Asia as well. Yeah, so I'd still not get into the biryani fight. I'd like my great neighbors to decide. And cricket, I mean, yeah, that is something that can connect us in the whole of South Asia.
Something I noticed that both of you kind of get into is this idea where, whether it's cricket or family, it's kind of rooted in, I guess, this fundamental belief about who you are as a South Asian or identity in general, again, through the proxy of sports or entertainment or whatever. And I'm so curious about how that morphs and changes over time into who we are today, but I'll definitely get more into that. Lucky, would you like to go next and answer about how your personal experience shaped your identity as a South Asian and as a Bangladeshi?
Thank you. At first, I want to say that if I want to say about me, who I am, then of course, if I say about my linguistic, it is Bengali. And in my country, in Bangladesh, it is not only a language itself, it's also, that Bengali nationalism is also there. I'm a Bengali, of course, as a citizen, I am a Bangladeshi citizen. And if you the identity actually defines you, that who you are. So I, as a, that I have a connection with Communist Party, so I believe in internationalism. I think that I'm a person of this world, but also I have to think about that I'm a Bangladeshi person, and I'm also a South Asian person. When in 2017, I went to Brazil. It was a political school, one for political school. There were almost 42 countries, people were there. But in the end, those were my best friends. They were the South Asians. So actually, that somehow how it was made, actually, because of our culture. Also, language barrier is common. Also, there are some linguistic common thing you will find. Some here you will find Hindi is very much. Many people talk in Hindi, and also many people talk in Bengali, and also other languages is there. but somehow we feel very closeness here. Yeah, that's why we became friends. But we have so many differences, and also we have so many diversities, I think, where we have many common things in our cultures, so that we were united. But what thing actually most common, that is that many of the South Asian countries, they have faced the colonized period. So this is the history. This you can't erase them. This history actually drives you, that how you will choose what will be your perception. This actually reminds you. So this is very important. And also I should think about it, say about it, that the discrimination is in the South Asian countries itself. These are very much common, and you know that the fight for democracy is very much common in all of these countries. So these are some of these common things I should say about it. And you know that whenever I brought, my father is a freedom fighter, you know, that we, from our childhood, we, of course, as a nation, we were against the Indian state or the government, because of we have to fight against them. 3 million people have died, and we 3 lakh our women, they were raped. So it is a scar, you know. So that it has started from the very beginning. And after our liberation war, we didn't get the justice to punish that war criminals. So it was our scars. And whenever I grew up and I went to my university, and I saw that these feelings were actually everywhere. And this feeling actually, from most of these countries, our neighbors, we mostly heard about Pakistan because of that history. So we wanted this punishment. That's why we have done a very massive movement in 2013. That was, I'm also one of the organizer of that movement. It is called Shahbag movement. And we want justice at that time. So I think that history cannot actually cannot be erasable, but we have to think about it, and it reminds you all the things. And there are many common things. Although you know that whenever you go to the cricket, there you will find the history, the legacy of history, the legacy of politics is everywhere. Suppose if India Pakistan, they start to the game, so they are the big rivalries. And also, if now India and Bangladesh, if they play, it's also a rivalry. Now, if Pakistan and Bangladesh play, it's also become rivalry. So because it connects the history, you know. So I think that is very much connected. But you know that whenever these countries, they play with the other regions, then you will see that the people's perception and people's choices are changing at that time. Because at that time they are facing that, oh, South Asian people, South Asian country, they are winning or something. At that time they will follow some of the countries. This is very common. And you know that one of the thing I should speak about it, that in those regions, religion plays a very important role. And religion, so this is very important. In India, Hinduism plays very important role. In our country, Islam is playing a very important role. In Afghanistan, in Pakistan, here Islam plays a very important role. And after 90s, I should say about it that the transition of neoliberal economy, where is very much prevalent in these countries, that culture also influences about it. So I think that these type of things also changes the culture, the people's patterns. This also has changed. So I think that what should I say is that if you say the tradition, if you say in celebration, you will see many similarities here. Suppose in Pohila Boishakh, this is our very important secular part. And that in every region, they all have their New Year celebrations, their country's New Year celebration. These are very common, and celebration type is also common. So I bring up through the history. I brought up through the history, and the South Asian people's mind also reflects with the religion, history, politics, and also with the cultures. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lucky. It's so fascinating what you said, because I think about how almost implicit a lot of these dynamics are in the things that I interact with as a South Asian. Growing up, whether it's cricket or movies, or like I've never, I guess, conceptualized how embedded all of our history and politics are in everything that we do. And now that I'm in research and I'm volunteering with Sapan and everything, I can't interact with it the same way. When I go to a cricket match or when I watch a movie, like a Bollywood movie or whatever, I always start talking to my family about like the geopolitics of it all. They're like, we just want to watch, but you're completely right that you can't ignore it, right? It's so undistinguishable from everything that we interact with. And I would love to flesh that out more as well. But we still do have a few more people that I'd like to talk to about this. Amna, I apologize, by the way, for mispronouncing your name earlier. Would you like to weigh in as well?
Hi, it's fine. So for me, it was like from like I've said this before. My father's side is from India, and my mother's side is from Pakistan. So in my family, we were the people who were just confused. Like, so if we talk about language, my mother's side, they have Pakistani Punjabi accent, and my father's side, they have Indian Punjabi accent. It's a very slight difference, but you can feel it. And I call ours accent confused one, because we don't know which side to go to, right? And they all have different kind of perspectives on things. Like, they're very small things, but it's not something very big, like, as we see in our history and everything. So I'll go towards the topic which thing Lucky mentioned. uh, Religion, for me, I always feel like it's more geographically centered and rooted in the region. But if you move aside from your region, away from your home, religion takes a back seat, and your culture and your traditions take a front seat. So you, for example, if you are in a different country, which is like move around away from South Asia, even if you move towards Southeast Asia, countries like Japan and Korea, even there you would gravitate more towards brown people that you would see, and you would forget, what, oh my god, we have a bloody history of 47 and 3 wars and everything. You will be like, okay, fine, our culture, our traditions would take a front seat, because these are the people I can relate to. Because if you go around, you'll be like, oh my god, there's a cricket match, and we are very invested in, and people would be like, have you lost your mind? Like, in Pakistan, at least I know, if there is a Pakistan India match, you get a day off from work. You actually demand a day off from work. There's like proper screenings everywhere, like big billboards, and everyone is screening. Everyone is like, there's a live Twitter feed, and it's like a big chaos. But if you're in a different country and you're like, okay, I need a day off to process Pakistan India match, your boss would be like, yeah, I think you need therapy, not a day off. Okay, so this is not how things work. So I think if we talk about the things that we all can relate to and find a common ground on, I think it's not just South Asian region, it's every country which has place which has been through colonialism. I would call the term post-colonial hangover, because we want to move beyond the colonial experience, but at the same time, our tradition, our culture, especially our work things, our institutional systems, they are so deep-rooted in the colonial system that it takes a very long time. For example, even now in Pakistan, if you talk about, its official language is Urdu, but if you're going toward official system and official communication, it is not done in Urdu. It's in Pakistan. It's in English. It makes no sense for a country whose national language is Urdu. It has different regional language. Its still main form of communication is English. It's because it's the colonialism is deep rooted in our structure, in identity, that doesn't go away. I'll just, on a very lighter note, I would just say that for me, more than cricket, I think the thing that makes me feel more like South Asian and brown is music and movies. Our folklore stories. If you there's something that you would always born on, is music and movies. And no matter, I think, where you go in the world, the bonding you will have over chai and your love for Shah Rukh Khan, that is something that is common in all South Asia. Actually, in the world, I don't think it's just a South Asian thing. It's a global thing that if you go, I mean, it hurts when people say chai latte or chai tea. It does hurt when you hear these things, but what can we do? So I think for me, it's music, movies, chai and a lot of love and respect for Shah Rukh Khan, that really forms a big part of our South Asian identity. Thank you.
I stayed with the homestay family when I was in Kathmandu, and I brought up my love for Shah Rukh Khan, and I was almost expelled from the family. So I don't know how common the sentiment is, but I appreciate what you had to say. I also really want to dive into this kind of post-colonial shared trauma. I think that is so powerful. I write a lot about this shared sense of shame that a lot of South Asian diaspora seems to feel in the world. And I think a lot of it is through that, right? How we think about our skin color, the things we eat, how we speak. And it's something that I think we all reckon with. And through that kind of shared bonding, I've found it so much easier to connect with South Asians from every corner of the world. So definitely want to touch upon that in a bit. Utpala, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this.
Hi, yeah. So speaking of my lived experiences, I went to this school called Royal College for high school. So it's been around forever since 1836, and what's cool about it is how it's all about inclusivity. So your background or beliefs don't matter there. It's all about who you are and how you treat people. Growing up there, I had friends from all walks of life. We would celebrate everything from Deepavali and Hajj to Vesak and Christmas together. So that kind of upbringing really shaped my outlook on the world. So I see people, not labels. And man, culture is my jam. So coming from a countryside vibe where culture was everything, almost everything, I wanted to keep that alive. So me and my buddies started UNU that I mentioned before, a platform where we dive deep into arts and culture. So what's neat is we are not tied to any one religion or ethnicity, thanks to the lessons from my school. So the reason why I'm telling that was like my school was a result of colonization, but as I weave it's a good impact of that. So it's been secular since its inception. So we are all about showcasing, in the UNU, we are all about showcasing how different groups in Sri Lanka and South Asia come together. Like, did you know about the cultural connections between Sri Lanka and India? It's mind-blowing stuff, like the similarities between the Sigiriya murals and the ones at Ajanta. So I see like the culture is the glue holding South Asia together. So we must embrace that.
That's extremely powerful, Utpala. I have to say, every time I speak to you, you're so embedded into like the historical and anthropological narratives of the region that I learned so much about it. And it kind of leads me to my next question about how each of your work relates to, everything that we discussed today. But I first also want to give the audience a chance to weigh in. I encourage you all to share your own perspectives about how your identity is developed in the chat. And Vidya, Adnan, if you have anything to add to this, I would love to hear from both of you. Vidya, you were nodding your head. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to share um, hearing all of the panelists here, most of them have a connection to, either Pakistan, they have their grandparents coming from there. But for me, I do not have a connection whatsoever, but I still feel a strong affinity. And that initially it would puzzle me and I wouldn't understand why so. And it would make me guilty as well because, I've grown up with the narrative that, it's an enemy country, and why do you have such a strong affinity? But, eventually I realized that it is not, uh, these are all chatter. They are ultimately people. And why do I relate to them is because we have a shared culture, shared music. In fact, my affinity grew because of Coke Studio Pakistan. That's how I got to know of, our shared similarities and our cultures. And I think this is something which we as youth should bring up more. And apart from the politics, we don't know when that will, if that will resolve ever. But as the youth of today, I think it's our responsibility to take our similarities forward.
I completely agree, especially with, you calling all of us youth because I'm still youth. I have to keep telling myself that. And, that I think that wonderfully segues into this next question, which, yes, we're all relatively young. We're all also kind of somewhat established in our careers. And most importantly, I think each of us have such different perspectives, given the fact that, we're in international relations, historians, in politics, in sports, and, gender studies or whatever. And I really want to focus more on your individual roles and perspectives with each of those. How do you intertwine the work that you do now, the advocacy even, into exactly what Vidya was talking about? How do you try to subvert the, maybe misconceptions about how different we all are, or how do you encourage commonality in South Asian identity? Let's start this time with Lucky.
Thank you. I should speak about it that I work in the peasants section, that whenever I was a student, at that time, I was connected with UFD, World Federation of Democratic Youth. At that time, I got some of my friends from there. And at that time, when we were discussing about the student issues, at the time we feel that we have so many common things in that, because all of them, when they were discussing about it, they were discussing about the new liberal policy, how entered in their educational system. In that case, Nepal were different because Nepal never had the colony, so their education system don't have that much scars of colonialism. But other countries, suppose India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or some more countries, they were in Sri Lanka also, they were discussing about that, how their education system was facing the problems, and the facing of discrimination, it was very much evident everywhere. But when I just, at the time, I thought that it was mainly maybe the student issues. But whenever I came to the peasants organization, at the time I was connected with SAPC, and there were, the South Asian Peasants Organization Coalition. At that time, I was connected with so many peasants organization, and I was so many astonished that when they all are discussing, I was thinking these are my problems. And when Pakistan was the peasants organization, they are talking about their problems. I was feeling that, man, these are my problems too. So these are very common. So actually, that the discrimination, the injustice, these are very much common there, and the people how they are facing, these are common. And even that I work with Communist Party, and also I work with the women also. I'm a member of Women's Cell. So last year I went to Nepal, and at the time, there were conference of Nepal UNWA's organization. The conference was there, so I was there as an attendee. So here, there also I met many women. So when the women were talking, I think that they are my nephews or something. They are actually talking about our problems. So at last, I should say that the problems what we are facing, the women are not emancipated here. Women feel so many discriminations there. Their works are not recognized. Their wages are there are so many discrimination in their wages, and over.
Oh, cliffhanger. We'll give her a few seconds. If it doesn't come back on, I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Well, Lucky hopefully comes back on very soon. Something I want to highlight that she said that I loved so much was, these are my problems too. That sentiment is so, so powerful. And especially in my community organizing work, we talked about colonization already a bit, but when we talk about other things like the gig economy or how we relate to social media, that immediately, it's kind of that shared trauma bonding, or that just, oh, like, let's just rant about this, because I totally get the whole political corruption angle, or the economy is doing this or that. And yeah, I think that's very powerful, especially among our region. So with Amna, do you want to go next and follow up to this question about how your work specifically helps you reinforce commonalities within the South Asian identity and subvert, other misconceptions about dynamics between the
Yeah.
region?
Okay. So I work basically in public sector development, like catering especially to women and gender in Punjab, Pakistan. But I think because that's more red tape and bureaucratic structure, you see, and you honestly, it's like, when you see the trickle down effect, you see that how where we are failing in big structure terms. So I think that's why I started volunteering with Aurat March Lahore. And I think when you the concept that like Lucky mentioned, it's the feeling of sisterhood, feeling realizing that you're not alone. Whatever problems you have, unfortunately and sadly, there is someone who is going through the same thing as you, who understands you, who will listen to you, who will give you empathy, who will give you understanding that you know what, you're not alone. These things will get better. And when it comes to in terms of like South Asian identity and finding a common ground, if we talk about discrimination, especially women and gender minorities face in Pakistan, South India, Nepal, South Asia, it's honestly and sadly worse than other countries. So I think there's always this common ground where you like the workplace harassment, the laws that should protect you from workplace harassment are definitely not as well implemented and well drafted in South Asia as comparatively to other countries. When you talk about equal pay and gender wage gap, Pakistan has consistently been in top in the like not top like in bottom for a very long time. If you talk about gender identity index, gender development index, Pakistan again is a very at low index. So I think for me it's defining common grounds and stuff like this. If you talk about family support structure, in I think we in South Asia, especially women, are fighting the not only just patriarchy, we're fighting this deep rooted desi patriarchy system where the concept of honor and we should not be talking about these things openly, families family respect and family izzat comes first, family honor comes first, and stuff like this. Like for example, even in today's world, divorce is considered a big taboo, right? So women are just like suffering in bad marriages and bad relationships because you don't know, you cannot get out, you do not have the financial support. The concept of alimony and child support is not very well implemented in Pakistan, honestly, unless you actually have a court order and it's being enforced, or a person goes to jail once or twice, that ex-husband will not support their children. So that's the kind of stuff I feel like we will find a common ground in South Asian countries. And it's the same way like I think the first time we had this in Earth March, there were people from like I think this was a couple of years back. There were people, journalists, basically covering from other countries, and they were participating. Someone were participating, they're just visiting, and they were watching. So there was like this performance, there was art piece, and they were watching this, and they were like, this kind of street harassment is something that is very desi. That is something you will not face in other countries. This catcalling, this teasing, it's not teasing, it's the movies that have shown that it's teasing. This kind of constant harassment, going after women, like constantly hounding them, that I want to be, I like you and stuff like this. This is just very common in desi culture. Like honestly, if you're like in Western country, I'm not saying it doesn't happen there, but if you're there and this catcalling thing happen and someone is harassing you, police will come and they will file a complaint against you, rather than in desi countries where it would be like, should I do this? Oh my god, I will have to go to police station. Should I be really putting myself through so much trauma unnecessarily? All of this. So I think these are very sad and unfortunate circumstances that give us a very common ground. And this is something at my work that I deal with. We, dealing with displaced women, giving them support, especially for working women. And there's like the word we use, muhtasib, which is basically system that basically is a check and balance for workplace harassment. I think these are the things that you see honestly at bigger system, and you feel very helpless because you do realize it's a cycle which is not going to end. So these things keep happening. And one last thing before I go, I think in desi culture and basically South Asian culture, what other thing is that the internalized patriarchy of women too. That is the kind of a cycle. Like for example, a, a woman who got married young faces through a lot of in-laws violence and domestic violence, and no one is there to support her. The thing is that unfortunately, slowly a victim becomes the abuser, the thing. So she will project the same trauma on the next generation, because we don't have the term means of therapy, means to get help, and to realize that something is wrong in this system. So that internalized patriarchy, rather than you would be looking up, oh my God, my mother-in-law would be able to help me, my sister-in-law would be help me. They are basically victims themselves, so they will just not help you. They will have their own issue. They will be projecting on your own. So it's like a cycle that goes on and on and on. So I think these are the common grounds. I think I've seen at my work, and I think I can relate to Aurat March, the things Aurat March have seen, and things I think all men do see this. So I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, you were so right. I mean, I think back to, I mean, you said how internalized it is, and I completely agree. And it's done so in a way that, like, for instance, I always notice that my dad always, or so my mom always, in Hindi, she talks to my dad by saying like aap or tum, and then he always says tu, and we kind of internalize that. Or she's always the one to do the dishes. She, is sitting in the passenger seat, or if a guest is coming, she has to sit in the back. And that kind of thing we just take for granted. Like, we don't recognize it, we don't call it out. And now that it's become a big thing, you also mentioned mental health. I think back to, like, I was proposing to like my nanny, oh, what if we got therapy? And my uncle was like, hi, what are people gonna say? And it's just crazy that we have this almost implicit taboo that none of us really acknowledge, but it keeps this patriarchy in place. So yeah, very, very powerful points. Thank you. I noticed Lucky is back. Lucky, do you want to finish what you were saying?
Sorry for her interruption. And I was just talking about that there were many common grounds in our region that we face the military rulers, and also we have the similar the fight for democracy, for the rights of the marginalized people. These are very common ground. So I think that we should more focus on our common problems and common grounds, so that we can be unified. And this will definitely, this is very much needed for the cause, and it will unite us. But we have, that I'm again saying about my experience in Brazil. That time we were in 45 days at that time. At that time, there were a South Asian day. And I was, when when the Indian people, they were performing, or when the Pakistani people, they were performing, when as a part of Bangladesh we are performing, I was so much enthusiastic that yes, this was me, this was us, actually this is us. So actually, that we have so many cultural commonalities, although we have so many diversified things, and we have a diversity. This is actually our beauty, I think.
I think the perfect follow-up to this would actually be Munsi. As your work as a peace builder, I would love to hear how you relate to both what Lucky and Amina just said.
So a unique point in my life is that after coming to the UK and pursuing a master's degree, I found out that there are not a lot of brown people working, in the UK, at least in the peace building arena. So I did not have a lot of mentors to go to, but that is also the reason I found myself being the voice for India, or for South Asians, or for brown people at many forums, specifically for my work with, the communities of Israel and Palestine. I was once asked that why there are so many protests which are pro-Palestine in India? Why do Indians care about this? You've got nothing to do with it. And my answer to that was that we have an experience of colonialism and subjugation, which is not just restricted to land grab, but also, a complete demolition of our culture, our identity, and what we truly believe in, what we truly are proud of. So that is the experience that Indians are resonating with, even if it's nothing to do with, most of their religion or even their land. Second, because I take flights from Manchester to India, and they're often have a layover in Dubai or say Qatar, I meet people on the flight who are, sometimes from Pakistan occupied Kashmir or Azad Kashmir, or are from Pakistan, or are from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, and I start talking to them. And this one time I met someone who was from POK/Azad Kashmir, and they completely changed my mindset about how I thought of it, because all of it was dependent on what I'd heard in the media, what I had heard from my politicians, what I had, known about Kashmir in my own perspective. And I sort of realized that this is a completely different perspective, which is absolutely existing. And it is totally different from mine, but it is equally true. So I invited that person to speak to the talented kids that I just mentioned, to talk about it and to give them a perspective of Kashmir that they don't know about. And it sort of also gave them the other side of the story. And this is my attempt at my work as well, to go beyond borders and find out how truly people on the other side believe in what they believe in. While that is true, so is my own reality and my own understanding of it. So two realities can exist because it's all subjective. And a bit taking it to my own personal life, of course, my parents were completely averse to the idea of me trying out traditions that are popular in Pakistan. But man, when I had the Pakistani kadai for the first time, in an instant, I knew we were fighting with the wrong people. It's completely deprivation of people who've never tried Pakistani kadai. So I can never find the Pakistani kadai masala in India. So I took it from the UK, took it back home, and actually prepared the kadai, taking a recipe from one of my friends, and served it to my parents, and they loved it so much. And it was such a liberating moment for me, that something that they're so against, and yet they were just trying. And that was, I call it the soft politics, or the soft softening their aversion to the other borders. So I try and bring these cultures together and try and bring people together to know that we're sort of one people, and we have a shared identity, a shared culture, shared diversity. Yeah, we have lots of problems, and of course, we have lots of issues that definitely need fixing. But the point is that we need to talk to each other first. We need to accept that we are one, and then we can move forward and, work on it together. Like Amna mentioned about the faces that women face, or what Lucky talked about, the peasants and the poverty and the income inequality. This is our shared culture. Yes, it is. And which is why we are also the fastest growing region in the world. Our economies are doing good. We need more contact. We need more trade relations, so that as a region, we can, show it to the world that no more that we'll accept any subjugation, no more that there'll come a country or some people who can tell us what to do and how to do it. We are our own people. We have our own voice. So yeah, that's what I had to say.
I love the concept of soft politics so much. I never thought of it in that way. And I think, we should write like an article or something detailing all of the fabric of soft politics and use that as a foundation for discourse in kind of the heavier politics, or whatever the contrast to that is. I think that was really excellent. And it leads me to ask Utpala, you're a historian and anthropologist, and a lot of the work you do, along the lines of what Munsi said, has to kind of consider a quote unquote neutral perspective, or both sides of the coin. I mean, you do so many different interviews with different people. How do you balance that, especially when it has to do with the dynamics of, interpersonal relations between different countries? Yeah, just how do you conceptualize that in your work?
Yeah, so it's so cool to hear from you guys about like we are having this thing together. So culture is like the glue holding South Asian countries together. So we've got all these shared rituals and vibes that connect us on a deep level. So, and you know what's cool? I mean, our diversity is our superpower. But to really harness it, we gotta bring everyone together under one roof. So, like instead of letting our differences divide us, let's use them to do some awesome stuff. So, speaking of Sri Lanka, there's this whole thing about Sinhala Buddhist nationalism, right? Sinhala Buddhist nationalism. So I think we should be promoting Sri Lankan nationalism, where it's all about celebrating our diversity rather than just focusing on one group. So ultimately, it's all about embracing the whole mix, not just one flavor.
Do you, just a quick follow-up with Pula, when you try to emphasize that kind of shared identity, what kind of responses do you get? What are your challenges when trying to do something like that? And how do you work around it using your line of work? Which is, again, like your line of work is very academic, right? It's something that I think everybody relates to as a form almost outside of politics in a lot of ways, where it's like, well, this is something I'm reading that I'm learning from. that I don't have to debate about. So do you think of it that way, or is it, somehow distinct? I'm very curious.
Yeah, like it sometimes, I mean, it sometimes works like that, but most of the time, like people want to read about the unity rather than the diversity. Like, so identities in South Asia are like this big melting pot of religion, ethnicity, culture, language, even class and caste. So it's a whole mix. So to be honest, for me, dealing with English was a bit of a hurdle. So like it's just not about language. It's about this whole identity thing. So I had to manage it to a certain degree, but I'm still working on that. So these kind of barriers are still there, but I guess we are having some improvement.
Definitely. Thanks, Utpala. And Sachin, finally, how about you? How do you use your work and to inform this kind of perspective? Kind of again going outside the personal into the things you're doing now.
First up, I find the case of Nepal a bit different than what it is in the rest of South Asia. The first thing is, we don't have a colonial past, so a number of issues mentioned here is completely unknown to me. We're not colonized because they already had enough in India to loot, including the word loot into their dictionaries. So they didn't come northwards, so we were safe in that manner. So we'll see. With biryanis and everything, it's a little difficult to get connected with everybody in South Asia because we're as I said and wrote in the chat box, we're more about momos and less about biryanis. But again, India is such a big civilization, and it's Bollywood, its culture, its art has influenced us so much, and we connect to India in a lot of ways, right? So we are the only country perhaps to share an open border in the whole of South Asia, if I'm not wrong. Nepal and India share open borders, and trust me, there are many benefits. Security can be an issue, but there are benefits of having an open border, and it's just like going to another district from one. So yeah, we have certainly different cases with other countries, unlike Pakistan or India or Bangladesh. We have a difference in that, and also I have hard time as a Nepali in connecting with the social issues. There are some we can connect with, but you'd be amazed to know that Nepal was, I think, one of the first countries to legalize gay marriage, and we did that in 2008, back in 2008, right? So our Supreme Court already judged for uh, gay marriage in our country. And when you talk about my city, Kathmandu, it's, I think, the party hub now in the whole of South Asia. It's getting safer. I read somebody writing, patriarchy saves women. Trust me, it doesn't. Nepal is a live example of it. In fact, the women empowerment has gone to a different level in Nepal. Yeah, so what can connect South Asia and what I can do is, I think cricket is there, with culture, with art, and somebody has to come out and think beyond borders. There has to be a leader, someone who has to tell our people, tell all the countries, see, you've had enough of fights. You have seen European Union and how they have progressed after that massive fight, when they have come together, now that they've grown into a developed region. And taking the words from Yuval Noah Harari, these are all fights of stories, right? We all know that we had common ancestors. That's something we all know, that it's just a matter of delusion or ignorance if you say we're not. I mean, we came from almost the same civilization, and then history took us apart. So if we can start from there and just think, we can collaborate, we can cooperate, forget what happened in the 19th, 20th century, and then move forward from there. I think there is hope. And what I do from my side is, because I've studied conflict, peace, and development studies, and it's so much about human behavior as well. So I have, through my advocacies, my political journey, I've always tried teaching people evolution, and that's how I think you can bring people together, right? Because this is not a battle of resources. This is not a battle of food. It's not a battle of rivers or waters or salt or anything. It's just a battle of stories. And many of them are false. And we all know this, right? So if we can get this idea into the brains of people in South Asia, I don't think it's very difficult to collaborate. I've been in Sri Lanka. I was there in Sri Lanka. I did the third semester of my master's in in the southern part of Sri Lanka. I've been there. I've stayed in India for almost 6 months. There's where my father was treated for, when he had a cancer, right? So we're all similar people. At least I saw a video where a Chinese kid was following a black guy from Africa, and he was amused because he had never seen a person like that. And at that point of time, you can think, okay, that's something new for them. But hang on, this is South Asia. We've seen people like us every now and then. It's just the difference of a name or difference of religion or difference of something. We've seen people like us. I mean, you go through the video call, the pictures of every one of us. We've seen people like us. So we have to start using common sense, and we'll find a lot of similarities, and the differences will vanish away.
That is a perfect segue to my final question, because I want to open up to the audience as well. And actually, I invite everyone to answer this question, especially in the chat. Vidya, Adnan, I'd like you to speak a little bit into this last question too, which is kind of directly from what Sachin said. What is one example of something in the region, something that you've experienced, maybe an interaction between two people on the side of the street, a social movement, a particular individual doing good work, a project, something that inspires you and gives you hope for this idea of peace and unity, not only in the future, but right now? I'll give everyone just a few seconds to think about that. I know that's a big question, but I really do want to end this discussion, which I feel can go on for 6 hours, but I don't know if anyone will let me speak that long. So yeah, what gives you hope, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And any of the audience, if you want to raise your hand, I'll also call on you in a bit. Vidya, Adnan, I'd like to hear your perspectives too. But from the speakers, Amna, maybe do you want to start?
Okay, so for me, I think it's always going to be children, because honestly, whatever we're seeing right now from Gen Z, that is giving me so much hope, especially students. I know it's not related to just South Asia, but the way student movement is going around all globe for Palestine is giving me so much hope, because I don't remember the last time where globally students connected so much for a movement. So I think for me, Gen Z is kids, right? So for me, kids always give me so much hope that, you know what, my future is safe. There is more for that. And if I talk about an incident that I've actually I was witness, which felt like very personal. For me, it was I saw these two girls once at a bus stop, and we were waiting. And they were from different culture. One of them from was north in Pakistan, from Gilgit Baltistan, and other was from I think from Sindh in Pakistan, like literally right in the south. And they were discussing, and they were in a college, and they were just talking, not really communicating very clearly, because she did not speak Urdu very well, and she only spoke Urdu. So they were just communicating in, like, whatever broken language they could at that time. And I think at one point, one of them wanted her hair braid in a different way. And she just showed her a picture of, I think, Shri Devi from a movie. And she was like, this is what I want. She just showed her a picture, and she immediately got the idea, and she started braiding her hair right then and there. And it was such a beautiful thing to experience. And the same way, she asked, what do you want? And she told her, this is what I want. And she just went different ways. She found adding flowers and everything. So for me, I think it's this stuff like this. I think for me, children and sisterhood would always be something that will give me joy and hope, no matter where we are in the world.
Love that. Utpala, do you want to go next?
Sure. So connecting with people from across the country, like different cultures, different communities. I mean, I face this reality every single day. So the more I interact with them, the more I am convinced that this is the road ahead. This is our future. So differences should reinforce unity. So that's my last line.
Sachin?
What gives me hope is I absolutely believe that there is no other way, and people will understand this. We've fought so much. We've had our differences. We've had, all these border issues and all those misunderstandings. And that's the reason, despite having the best human resource, India has the best human resource in IT. I was going through AI development, and India has the best resource in AI development as well. Despite having all the resources needed, we have a massive water source as well. we have enough water to fertilize our land, we have hardworking people. Despite all these advantages, why are we considered as the one of the poorest regions in the world? There will be a day when everybody will sit together and think about this. There are plenty of reasons. I agree. You can say colonization, and I've read how much the British, robbed from you all. Fortunately, they couldn't reach us because, maybe we're too mountainous for them. But I've read enough, how they've robbed all of us in South Asia. But one of the major reasons has been we've not been united. Our South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation did not work well. It's almost a failed idea now. We have to rethink about the regional, association that can connect us. And what gives me hope is there is no other way. And with right education, this will get into the heads of everyone, especially the politicians who are now dividing and ruling us. I'm sure there are political parties in each of our countries whose major fuel is hate against the other country. There are anti-India political parties in my country. There are anti-Pakistan, parties in Manse's country. There are anti-India parties in somebody else. So our politics has always been run in this way, as far as I can remember, right? So what gives me hope is, there is no other way. So once you hit the bedrock, you'll have to turn to sense, and South Asia will get sense one day. That's what I believe.
Yo, I'm getting emotional. This is powerful. So passionate. I love that so much. Really, I feel like I'm tearing up a bit because I'm so excited about all of it. Let's go to Lucky. Can you answer what gives you hope right now in the region? Oh, I think Lucky might not be in attendance. Munsi, do you want to go?
I mean, I would also like to recognize that platforms like these give me a lot of hope. SAPAN. SAPAN has a charter that endorses visa-free South Asia, and the fact that so many organizations and individuals have endorsed it, the fact that all of us today have come together to talk to each other despite the narratives that are running in our countries by our politicians and our media, despite the problems and the history and the issues and the religion and whatnot we have. That gives me hope. The fact that there's this urge to use technology and connect from people on the other side, humanize the other side, that gives me a lot of hope. The fact that you can go to any country in South Asia and you will be welcomed, as a family member. You'll be treated as a guest that is equal to God. You will be, given a lot of love and warmth. That gives me a lot of hope, despite what your nationality is. There was this story about a journalist who wanted to go to Kabul to cover, the political situation there. And she was an Indian, and she couldn't get access through any of the countries. She tried through Iran, she tried through China, but she couldn't get it. And in the end, it was Pakistan who gave her the road access. And she spent 10 days in Pakistan, traveling through via the road to reach Kabul. And she was completely impressed and mesmerized by the love that she received. And there was a biker from Pakistan who came to India and went across India on a bike, staying with people in homestays. And they absolutely loved him. And he loved people back. So the kindness that is common across South Asia in all of our countries is very, very hope-giving. And that's what I wanted to say.
Love that. I want to open things up to the audience because I think.
I just want.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing. Mansi's thing made remind me. There's a saying. There's something we say in Aurat March. It's called culture of care. That there are so many things in the world. There's cruelty, there's hopelessness. But I think as long as you keep caring about each other and hoping that whatever that person is saying, there is no bad intent behind it. Maybe they're not being understood. Maybe there is something else that we are missing. As long as we keep holding on to that hope, diversity and everything is going to become our strength very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition. I noticed Lucky is back. Lucky, we're just answering the question, what gives you hope right now? A particular person, project, social movement, just simple interaction. Would you like to go?
Sorry for my interruption. I want to say that which gives us hope. That is the I think that people's power, people's movement, and it gives us hope because if you go through the history, then you will find that our youths, our people, they have come forward, they have done their movement, they have come on the streets. That's why the change has made, whether it is in Sri Lanka, whether it is in Nepal, whether it is in India, whether it is in Bangladesh, or so on. So I think that people's participation in the movement, it is must, and it gives us hope. And when the people will participate in the movement as for the different type of cause, it will create so many cultural values, and it will create the cultural, some our distinguished songs, theaters, and all of the cultural tools, they were made through the movements, so I think this is the master. So whenever people will be raise the awareness about it, then this type of culture, it will be produced. And whenever we are supporting Palestine's people's struggle, it is not like that we, the majority of our country, they are the people who believes in Islam. That is not the issue, but we are supporting Palestinian people because they because of the justice, that they so this is one of the main reason. And one of the important thing I should say about that, whenever the diaspora's people, they don't see their homelands, but still they feel their connection with their roots. Why? Because of this, their history, because of that tradition, because of their belonging, because actually they feel home there. So this is their home. So I think that and that when in 2013, when Shahbag movement was happening, at that time, in every part of the world, wherever there are Bangladeshi peoples, or they were coming to, they were doing the movements. And now for the cause of Palestine, everyone is doing the movement. So this bridges us, and we feel so much connected, interconnected with them, whether we know them or even go them or not. Doesn't matter actually. It is this is called actually identity.
That
So
was very good.
streets
Thank
will be the hope. I think people are the hope.
Completely agree. I want to open it up to the audience. I noticed some people have raised their hands. Vidya, Adnan, I encourage you to speak up as well. Tom, I'll call you in just 1 second. Mina, I saw your hand up earlier. Did you want to say something?
Me? No. I might have just gone up by accident.
Mina.
Adnan is not here, by the way, so.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Yeah, so with respect to the conversation about hope, I think you all have covered the idea which I wanted to communicate. So instead of having, we did have conversation about identity, and we did move beyond that. How did these things get formed, and how are they shaping our current opinion? So these conscious thinking minds gives me hope. So when we can see something clearly, then my hope is that we can see or get closer to truth. And when we get closer to truth, our approach might be very different than very compulsive movements, or compulsive actions. So that gives me hope.
Would you just briefly introduce yourself also, just for the YouTube, so we
Okay.
have that?
Okay, I'm Meena. I'm a second-year PhD student at University of Toronto. I'm looking at how we can use information for mental health, and these ideas around intergenerational trauma, inner child healing. These are some of the ideas I'm interested in. And when you all spoke about that and touched upon those concepts, and few of you even spoke about ancestors, this possibility of we all having similar ancestors and why we all should work together, these ideas sounded very interesting to me. Yeah.
Thank you, Mina. Tom, do you want to go next? You're muted. And please introduce.
I thought there might be somebody else ahead of me. Is that true? I'll go now if you want.
I just saw Mina, and then you were next on my screen. I apologize if I did
Okay,
skip.
okay.
Go ahead. Since you're there, go ahead.
I think I only need 90 seconds, if you'll bear with me, please. First of all,
Just quickly introduce yourself also. Briefly introduce yourself also.
I'm not doing anything with my cell phone.
Or just
Can you hear me?
briefly introduce yourself. Would you briefly introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, I will. That's what I was gonna say. First of all, thanks to Bina for inviting me. We live together. We're neighbors in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I teach history at UMass Boston. We were galvanized recently by the murder by Cambridge police of a Bangladeshi gentleman, Saeed Faisal, who was a student at the university where I teach. So that's my connection here. I want to thank you all, everybody here, all the youngers here, and the youngers at heart too, for giving me some insights into the issues and concerns of you as individuals and as a group. It's really appreciated you educating me. I see this gathering as something other than just a group of activists meeting. I see this as a first meetings of future South Asian cabinets, parliamentary committees, distinguished heads of departments, and so forth. You are the future, and frankly, I can't wait for your generations to be in charge of the world's affairs. You're gonna do what needs to be done. And I apologize for my generation leaving huge messes for you all to clean up. But I'll just make a couple of points very quickly if I can. First of all, an important affinity of which you'll enjoy between South Asians and Americans. We are united by our mutual love of two sports, baseball and cricket, which no one else in the world understands. So there's unity in our mysterious pastimes. But I do want to get back to making a couple of points. I think that you're a great group of youngers who are going to lead the world in important new directions. But there's another group of youngers I know pretty well too, which is Ukrainian students and workers here in the United States. And I want to make a pitch to you all to in hopes that your governments and your citizens will do more to support Ukraine than is being done. Ukraine is a great progressive cause, is a great anti-colonial cause, and frankly, they need your energy and your experience as anti-colonial of your history of anti-colonial liberators. That would help Ukraine a lot. And I also think that it's significant that the most important single statement made about Ukraine in the last couple of years comes from Prime Minister Modi when he said, "Our era is not an era of war." We need more people to listen to that. But Ukraine must be defended because they're defending democracy and human rights for all of us. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. And keep up the good work.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Faisal, could I come in?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like the question, but, like I wanted to say to Mr. Tom that this debate is more centered around the South Asian identity, and probably we could have another event on Ukraine or Palestine, because we understand that injustice everywhere is a threat to almost the entire world. But I think we will stay on topic and we'll just focus on the South Asian identity and
okay.
Thank you. We'll have another discussion. We would have you part of that for sure. Yeah. Thank you. Faisal, you can continue. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Ashka, would you like to go next? Please introduce yourself in the beginning and then.
Sure, Faisal. Thank you so much. So my name is Ashka Naik. I'm a managing director at an international human rights organization out of Boston. I'm here because Bina ji has been a new friend, and I'm just kind of understanding how SAPAN works, and this has been an amazing experience. I cannot be on video because I literally just found out about this forum today morning, so I'm going to keep myself video muted. So in my work, over the past more than a decade, we have been monitoring, exposing, and challenging abusive transnational corporations. And so we work in many multilateral spaces and so on and so forth. And, that has made me wonder about this, my own identity, but also solidarity within South Asia, because we are still tackling the hangover, as somebody said, of colonization. There's a whole debate unfolding in many regions of the world on reparations and so on and so forth. However, we are already in the time of neocolonialism, which, people like Yanis Varoufakis has called the techno-feudalism. In monitoring these transnational corporations, we often see that South Asian regions are often the target expansion markets for extraction, exploitation of natural resources, and may it be beverage corporations like Coca-Cola or big oil and gas corporations or, seed monopolies or tobacco and alcohol industry. So I think, and they don't care about our borders within the region. They are very strategic, as Coca-Cola markets in they are very highly unhealthy products in Pakistan. Similarly, they market in youth and children in India, and so the public health harms of these corporations, environmental health harms are so shared, so deeply shared by communities across these regions. And so my question back to you, or maybe just a wondering, is, how do we talk about a lot of anti this and anti that, but how do we stand against these? And I hate to use the term, but honestly, that is how we approach them, is these targets that are further colonizing our current, sovereignties across, from biodiversity to our right to health, right to food, and so on. Is there a common thread to organize to challenge these neocolonial powers and geopolitical hegemonies that are also corporate oligarchies now in our own regions? So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashka. Actually, I invite our panelists to answer the question in the chat, if that's all right. I just want to make sure I get to everybody, because I think we're already over time, but I do want to hear from the others that have had their hands raised. Lalita, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Faisal. I'll try and make it short. I'm Lalita Ramdas, and I think Beena had mentioned somewhere I'm one of the founder members. I'm an octogenarian, but I consider myself amongst the youngest as far as my mind and my image about myself is concerned. So thank you for being there today. I have 3 points which I want to add in terms of what gives me hope. The fact that Sapan, against all odds and with just a bunch of amazing, dedicated volunteers, has actually survived for 3 years across time zones, across continents, across all our various preoccupations and busyness and so on. For me, that is a great sign of hope. Secondly, just listening to you, all of you, amazing young people from across our region today, fills me with love, with hope, with a great sense of optimism, no matter what our leaders and everybody else might be saying and doing. And a lot of what they say, alas, is so full of the hypocrisies. You wish peace everywhere else, but we are not willing to work on it in our own countries and so on. And my final reason is a personal one. 34 years today, our daughter, who lives now in New York and was studying at Mount Holyoke, happened to find herself sitting next to a good-looking young chap who she thought was from India. Some kind of chemistry obviously happened, and then they found out that she was Indian and he was Pakistani. My husband, who passed away recently, happened to be a very senior person in the Indian Navy. And when we heard, or when he heard about this little, relationship beginning, he told me when I went back, I had met them there in Mount Holyoke, he said, you know what? Of the 90 plus or 100 plus countries in the United Nations, did your daughter have to find a Pakistani? And I said at that time, oh no, never, it's probably puppy love, it will pass. It didn't pass. They got married before he actually took the highest post in the Navy in India. And I was sure that he would never make it. Today is their 34th wedding anniversary. And for me, that is my personal, being the political side of what gives me hope. And I hope that we will share many, many such stories. I think we just have to, we don't have another choice. And I just wanted to say, 3 days or 4 days before my husband actually passed away, he was sort of in between semi-coma, sleep, and a wakefulness. He suddenly woke up. I was sitting there next to him. I said, "What is it?" He said, "India and Pakistan. What are we doing about it?" And then he just, went back to sleep again. So it was something that was constantly uppermost in his mind. So that's all I wanted to say. It's wonderful seeing all of you. And well, we'll keep in touch. And as somebody said, yes, it's the youngers who have to obviously make good for all the serious errors that these elders have made. But together, I hope we will find solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lalita. That was very, very beautiful. I'm getting many signals from Vishal that we're over time now, and so I'll hand it back to him. I'm so sorry if I didn't get to you in the audience, but please do share your thoughts in the chat, and hopefully we'll get to it over after the event. Vishal, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so hi everyone. Thank you, Faisal, for moderating such an important discussion. And a big thank you to all our speakers sharing their diverse perspectives. I also had wanted to share one perspective around South Asian regionalism and my introduction to South Asia. I owe it to Beena Sarwar, who's our founder at SAPAN, as well as Dr. Serena Hussain, who is currently my supervisor. I explored the South Asian connection when I was a small kid. My uncle used to talk about this Pahadi Connect. So I used to live in a small town in Himachal, in Shimla. And he used to talk about this Pahadi Connect, which goes beyond our state, Himachal, and then into the Indian side of Jammu Kashmir and the Pakistani side of Jammu Kashmir. And then, it stops at Murree. So I shared this idea with Beena ji probably 6-7 years back, and then we wrote an article on the Shimla-Murree corridor. After Kartarpur happened, we wrote an article that there should be a corridor, this Pahadi connection between Shimla and Murree, and then the Pakistan-administered Kashmir as well as Indian-administered Kashmir. And we got it published. I'll share the links of that article. And this is how I discovered this connect with people who spoke similar language. Dialects are different, but they spoke a similar language. And then when I came to the UK, when I was doing my master's in Cardiff, I read an article by Dr. Serena Hussain. She's currently my supervisor. And that article related to the Pahadi language in the UK. And I was shocked that the Pahadi language is one of the most spoken minority languages in the UK. It has more speakers than Welsh. And mostly people who spoke that language were from a region called Mirpur, which is in Azad Kashmir, Pakistan administered part of Kashmir. And I was so mesmerized. I contacted her, and we met, and then we wrote an article together on this Western Pahadi connection, and strengthening this linguistic connect between both sides of the LOC. And yeah, so this is how I discovered, and this is how I felt connected. And I think everybody had their own stories. This was my short little story. I'll share all the links with you on the chat box, and you can have a look at it. And so I'll now move forward. Sorry, we have been a bit over time, but I felt, everybody wanted to contribute, and nobody wants to stop speaking. So this ensures that this event has been very successful. Moving forward, I have some very exciting news for all of you. The SAPAN Research Writing Competition will be launching soon. Keep a close eye on our website and social media handles for updates. This initiative will be led by Catherine Ibrahim, a journalist, editor, and author. And if we could spotlight Catherine, and if she could share more information about this, then it would be great. And yeah, so Catherine, over to you.
Thank you, Vishal. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, good evening, and this palimpsest of experiences shared by our panelists, Mansi, Lucky, Amna, Utpala, and Sachin today have been extremely enlightening for me as a person, thought-provoking, I think, for all of us, and they've offered us valuable insights to ponder upon. I'm just going to take one extra minute, Vishal, with your permission, just to share my end of the story as well. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I was introduced to photography years ago by a very dear friend who lives on the other side of the border. Her name is Shazia Ahmed. And Shazia happened to be also a photographer, and her husband is also a photographer. And I still recall my very first conversation with her where she said that, Catherine, don't worry about anything. Just put up whatever you take, whether it's a flower or even if it's a leaf, just put it up on the group. And the group that she referred to, just for everyone's information, at that time on Facebook had over 20,000 people in it. And you can well imagine exactly how I was feeling. And she was like, don't worry, we're all beginners. I said, Shazia, you're a pro. I'm not even in the beginning stage. But it's thanks to her that today I am not only a photographer, but I'm also a wildlife photographer. And I love doing landscapes as well. So that is my connection with Pakistan. And I've always believed that if we move beyond the established narrative, I think we can do a lot better. And that's why I also write books, which a lot of people think is very romantic. And while they are romantic, it also romanticizes the idea that India and Pakistan can very well be not just friends, but brothers. We can have a lot of cross-border work happening together if we just change the way we look at things and we change our perspective. So that's a little bit from my end. I'm sorry I took an extra minute. But as we conclude our session, we've decided to inject a bit of fun into Sapan this time around. And I'm really excited about it. To begin with, in our essay writing competition, which is aimed at young students, there are discussions on two pivotal topics. One is a women's empowerment throughout South Asia. And the other one is, of course, the media and information landscape and how AI, which has literally caught the entire world by storm, is influencing public opinion. So these topics have been selected to reflect current realities and also the importance of involving young minds in meaningful conversations about pressing issues. The second thing is something that Faisal and I believe Mansi just about touched upon. And in fact, the beginning of this debate was on it. It's our research writing competition. Now, soft power was a concept that was introduced by the American political scientist and professor Joseph Nye as early as 1985. And it was later brought to India by our own very Indian Trivandrum MP Shashi Tharoor in 2009. So what is soft power all about? It's exactly what we were discussing at the beginning, whether it's culture, it's couture, costume, whether it's biryani, or anything else, anything that binds us together. So our research writing competition, today we are in sync with the biryani debate. So we are having a topic called soft power diplomacy and its significance in South Asia. The second topic, however, moves a little bit towards water diplomacy. Now, a lot of us know about climate diplomacy, but within that, water diplomacy in South Asia has a lot of prospects and challenges. And we want our young researchers to find out how we can all comprehend these concepts, both soft power and water diplomacy, and how we can enhance the present and future of South Asia by harmonizing our shared heritage to foster growth and development. Finally, when we're looking at history, okay, so a lot of us talked about our ancestors, someone talked about grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and so on and so forth. What we've actually established is the fact that history lays a firm foundation to the present and the future. But can we choose really to let go a part of it, the part that hurts us? So, in pursuance to this question, we are extending our third heartfelt invitation to those young at heart. I was very specifically told I am not allowed to use the word seniors, so I'm not going to use it. It's for everyone who's young at heart. Please join us in sharing postcards of reconciliation and healing. These postcards are intended for the next generation of vibrant young individuals whom we firmly believe should be shielded from the conflicts of the past. So I do hope all of you find at least one competition to contribute to, take part in, and of course, please share it with your friends and family members so that they too can be a part of this initiative. And do log into the official website for all the other details. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Vishal. Over to you.
Thank you, Catherine. And now, if everybody could turn on their cameras so we could have a group photo, all the speakers especially. So if somebody could add them on Spotlight. So I'll try to take some group photos.
Trying to find the speakers to add them. If the speakers can just say something, whoever's not there, who's not there.
I'll be taking a group photo, then I think everybody can come in.
Where's Sachin?
Sachin, yeah.
Sachin nahi hai. I think Sachin's dropped off.
Okay, so yeah.
I don't see him either.
Yeah. Sarita, you need your camera on. Khushi, you need to
Great to
smile.
see Lalita ji.
Lolly, there he is. Where's
Khushi ji
Lolly?
is here. I've had it. Khushi ji is here.
Faisal and Cher look like twin brothers. Let's keep them apart.
Oh no, his hair is far better. I am actually very jealous.
Okay, so I'll move on. I think we have had enough photos now. So a request to all participants to, we would greatly appreciate your feedback. So please take a moment to fill out the feedback form. We continuously strive to improve, and your feedback is invaluable to us. So before we close, I kindly request everybody to please consider contributing via the link provided in the chat to make a tax deductible donation. Someone from our team will share the link in the chat box again. Thank you. We would also like to express our gratitude to all of you who have joined us, both the speakers and the audience. We particularly appreciate the speakers who, despite their busy schedules, agreed without hesitation to join us today and share their thoughts. A big thank you to all our event team behind the scenes, as well as those who you saw on screen. Khushi Kabir ji, Kavar Mumtaz ji, Fawzia Diba ji, Sarita Bartola, and Beena ji. Helped conceptualize the event, identify speakers, and put everything together. A special thanks to Faisal, Sarita, Vidya, Adnan, Naveen for all their hard work working in handling pre, during, and post-event tasks. And finally, we now conclude the event. However, if you wish to stay on and continue engaging in discussions or networking, you are most welcome to do so. Thank you all. Piriya Vidai, Khuda Hafiz, Ayubovan, Alvida, Log Je Ge Me, and goodbye for now. Thank you.